Hello, today I'm going to show you how to write your own melodies using the Bluejay ESC melody editor. I'm making this video because when I was trying to figure this out, there were no good videos documenting how, and hopefully I can, shine some light on how to do this. So the first string of text when you open the melody editor is going to be the title. It's going to be something like Bluejay, or if we open up Tupac Hit 'em Up, then it's going to be Tupac Hit 'em Up. But that doesn't really mean much. That's just sort of in the text so you know what you're editing. When you go to save the melody that you've made, you're going to go here to the save as, and you're going to type in, melody or, penis song or whatever you want. And then you're going to click save, and that's what it's actually going to save as. So that's just sort of a reminder for as you're editing the beat. I'm editing the melody, not the beat. So, yeah, that's what that is. So after the title, then you're going to have one of these three parameters. You're going to have either B equals, O equals, or D equals. And these parameters set sort of the defaults for the melody that you're going to be making. Let's start with B equals. This stands for BPM, and this determines the speed of the melody. It can go from 5 to seemingly infinite, but I don't see any point in having it slower than 20 or faster than maybe 300, as that's just about as fast or as slow as any melody you're likely going to make. And that's pretty much all that one is. Up next, we have O equals. This sets the default octave that the notes are going to be played in. This number is usually going to be 4 or 5 because it's hard for our motors to accurately articulate anything below 4 and above 5 or 6. The lowest note that it will let you play is D sharp in the 3rd octave, and the highest note that it will let you play is D in the 7th octave. But you probably won't be playing anything that high or low because it's hard for our motors to accurately articulate those kinds of notes. The melody editor will play all notes in this selected octave unless we tell it to do otherwise, which I'll show you how to do later. The next parameter that we have is D equals, and this sets the default note length that the melody editor is going to play. We can set this to 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, or 32. But I think a good place to have it at is 4 because that gives you that makes the most sense from a music perspective. If you're counting a song, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, and so on and so on. But also it gives you good access to shorter and longer notes, probably more than you would actually need. And that's pretty much it for our parameters. And now we can get into the actual melody editor part. So we can tell it to play any note between C and B, just like an octave in a piano. And that includes sharps and flats, just like a piano. And we do that by typing the name of the note. So A, we can do A and then B, or C, D, just about any note. Although if you do want to, play one note after another, so let's say you want to play a D and then a C, you'd go D, comma, C. And then it will play D and then a C. Whereas if you just type D space C or something like that, it will get confused. Right? And it just plays one of the notes. So that's something to keep in mind. If we want to play a sharp or a flat note, then we will type A and then a pound symbol or hashtag, as you may call it. And that's the same for just about any note that has a sharp. However, we cannot access the flats because if we tried to type, A flat, then that just looks like AB to the melody editor, and it would get confused on whether we're trying to play an A or a B note. So we only have access to the sharps, but that's perfectly fine because all sharps and flats have enharmonic equivalent notes, or every flat has a corresponding sharp note to it, as you can see here on the piano that I'm hopefully displaying on screen. Now, if we want to play a note that is higher or lower than the octave we selected in our O equals parameter, then we can do that by just typing the number of the octave we want to play the note in after the note name. So, for example, if we selected octave 4 for our default octave, and let's say we wanted to play something in a 5th octave, then we would just type, our note name followed by the number 5 for 5th octave. And that goes the same for just about every note. Yeah, that goes the same for every note and every octave, including the ones below. So that's how the octaves work. let's say we want to play a note that is shorter or longer than our D equals parameter. We can do that by simply typing in 1 through 32. So 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, or 32. We can type any of those before the note name. So let's do 1D, and it should play for 4 beats of 100 BPM. And the same follows for anything shorter. So let's say we want to play something eighth note instead of a quarter note, as our 4 equals D parameter is set. Then we would just type 8 and then our note name, and it should play for half as long as our default parameter. So this is half as long, and this is our default parameter. Whoops, that's just a number. This is our default parameter. So there you go. You can see how that works, and that's how the note length parameters and stuff works. So up next, I'm going to try and actually make a melody in the melody editor, so that way you guys can see what I would do in this situation and hopefully follow maybe in my footsteps. And I do want to preface that by saying I am a very musical person. 5 days out of the week, 9 months out of the year, I go to music classes for 3 hours out of the day. So I know quite a bit more about music than, quite a bit more of you most likely will. So this is probably going to be easier for me than it will be for most of you. So I'm over here in YouTube, and I just typed in Banana Brain by Die Antwoord. That's the song that I'm going to be trying to make. And this is I'm just going to type in piano tutorial, which should bring us to a MIDI-like, what is this called? Synthesia tutorial. And this lets us easily see, pretty understandable for most people, what the notes we need to play and when they occur. So side to side is the notes, and up and down is time. And as you can see here, this line right here is measure 1, and then over here that we got a little 2, and that counts as measure 2. And so as we can just see, it goes between C in the 3rd octave and C in the 4th octave. But like I said, music doesn't sound very good in this ESC editor when we try to play anything below the 4th octave. So I'm going to just turn everything up 1 octave. So the C's in the 3rd octave are going to become C's in the 4th octave, and C's in the 4th octave are going to become C's in the 5th octave. So we're going to just start by typing C, and that's the first note there. And then after that we have another C, but that's in the octave above that. And since we have our default parameter as 4th octave, I'm going to type comma to separate the notes, and then I'm going to do C5 to make that C in the 5th octave. So now we should have our first 2 notes. Okay, now that sounded a little too slow compared to what we hear on this piano. So that's a little bit slower than I would like. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just set the default, whoops, the wrong one. I'm going to set our default note length parameter to 8 instead of 4, so everything should be just about twice as fast now. There we go. That sounds a little bit closer. Yeah, just about perfect. And actually, if we take a look here, we can see... Okay, I guess not. But as you can maybe see right there, it says 130 BPM, which indicates that we should stick our BPM at 130 and see how that sounds. Oh, that sounds just about right. Yeah, that sounds a little bit more perfect. So, what we're going to do now is we're just going to count how many times that happens. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 notes. So, and it's going to end on the lower octave. So we have already 2 out of 7. So now we just type another C, and that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it ends on the lower octave, just as it should, because we're doing everything correctly. Now, if we follow this with a straight line, it looks like our next note is going to be equally spaced on an F in the higher octave. So we're going to do comma F5 because it's in the higher octave. And after that, yet again, equally spaced, F, but this time in the lower octave. So we're going to type comma F with no 5 because it's in the lower octave. After that, yet again, equally spaced in the higher octave, we have another F, so we're going to type comma F5 because F5 because it's in the higher octave. And now we can just see how this sounds compared to the MIDI editor music. So let's take a listen. So that's what that sounds like. And then if we listen here, should sound pretty similar. That sounds just about dead on, so I'm pretty happy with that. So we can now we can wait for our music to go up a little bit so we can see a little more. We remember the last note we wrote was this F right here. Looks yet again equally spaced. This time we have E flat. But since we can't access the flat notes, if we follow down here to the piano, we see this white note here is E. This black note in between it, or to the left of E, is E flat. And just to the left of E flat, we have this white note here, which is D. And if D is also, if D and E have a black note in the middle, it's going to be E flat or D sharp. This is very confusing for some people. So we're going to type D sharp. And that appears to be in the higher octave. So we're going to type D sharp 5 because that's in the higher octave. After that, if we just follow in a straight line, it looks like our next note is equally spaced A flat. Another word for A flat, which is this note right here, A flat, G, would be G sharp. So we're going to type comma, G sharp, and then it's in the higher octave again. So we're going to type 5 because our default parameter is in the 4th octave. After that, this was the note that we last typed. We can follow this in a straight line, and it leads us to an A flat in the lower octave. So we're going to type the same thing, comma, G sharp, but without the 5 because it's in the lower octave this time. And we can follow it once more to yet another A flat equally spaced in the higher octave. So now we can type comma, G sharp 5, which should give us roughly the melody that we're looking for. So let's go ahead and take a listen to this up until that point and compare it to how our melody editor melody is sounding. Okay, so that's what it should sound like, and let's take a listen. And that sounds yet again just about dead on. Oh, I missed something. So now we can let it scroll up to where we were, which was this note right here, A flat. And it looks like equally spaced. Our next note is going to be just a G, but that is yet again in the higher octaves. So we're going to type comma G, and then we can just leave that there. And if we follow this in a straight line, looks like our next note is going to be C. Yet again, equally spaced and all of that, so we can just type C. Oh, actually, this is going to be in the higher octave, and let me check. Ah, yes, so is that G, so I messed up there. This G is also going to be G5. So now we can take a listen. Wow, that sounds quite incredible. Let's go ahead and compare that to what we hear on our MIDI melody editor. That sounds just about dead on. Let's play that one more time. Wow, we are really good at this. And yeah, so that's sort of the gist of it. And here you can see I have it just as one box. So I'm going to copy this so that way I don't delete all my progress. If we go to, I don't know, just, any of these other, you can see that we have 4 separate ESCs. And that's for if you want to make more complicated melodies. So down here you can see I've made some other ones. And so this one is the Hoe Cakes by MF Doom chord progression. And this is, in this case, you would need 4 different notes playing at once to make a chord. So this is sort of what that would sound like. So that's the purpose for having 4 separate ESCs. And if you want to do that, then you can uncheck this Synchronize Melodies box. And if you want to have it all the ESCs just play the same notes, then you can click that and it will play the same thing on all 4 of your ESCs. That's really just about all I have for you. So, you know, if you want, we can take one more listen to this. So that's pretty much all I have for you. And oh yeah, yet again, saving. So here, let's actually change this right here so that way we don't think we're playing the Bluejay theme or Bluejay startup sound. We're gonna type banana brain, and now we can type up here banana brain, and we can hit save. And as you see, if we scroll down, we have our melody saved right here. So that is how you can make your own custom melodies in the Bluejay editor. So hopefully I helped you understand how you can make your own melodies in the Bluejay ESC melody editor. Please give this video a like if this helped you out in any way, and if you want to see more content like this. I definitely would have liked to have a video explain it to me instead of trying to figure this out all on my own, which was quite confusing.
Cousin Craig.
The size of your tip makes such a big difference